Hello everybody, this is Russ Bucher from ControlMyJoystick. In this video we're going to take a look at how you can use ControlMyJoystick to control the game Planetbase. And Planetbase is a kind of a town building or city building game on another planet, and it's pretty tricky, and it's basically just a scrolling game though. You know, you're scrolling around over a map and you're making buildings and things, and traditionally you use a keyboard for that, but we're going to set up a 3D connection controller to do the scrolling for us. Let's give it a try. So I have the Planetbase game up and running, and you know, the best way to run a game when you're configuring initially with ControlMyJoystick is to run it in windowed mode, and here I have it in windowed mode. There's no obvious way to make it go into windowed mode though. But if you go Alt-Enter in Planetbase, that'll put it into window mode. Otherwise, it loves to be full screen. Okay, and I have ControlMyJoystick here on some strange theme. And I also have it set to stay on top. So it'll remain on top of the game window so we can make changes here and see what's happening in the background. All right. So let's see what else we have. Let's just continue a game. I started one. This is an easy game to get your ass kicked. So I have a city that's kind of up and running, that there won't be or shouldn't be any huge emergencies while we do some experimentation. Okay, here's my city. So now what I want to be able to do here is to scroll around the map. So I'm just going to use the controller and scroll to the left, to the right, back, and forward. And I can even use it to rotate here as well. So it allows me to take a really good look at my setup here. Got all my utility stuff here, and power and water generation, my town. Okay, good. So now let's take a look at how we set all that up. So I'm just going to bring up ControlMyJoystick, and going to Alt-Tab out of it here. Here's ControlMyJoystick. So now I have a profile created for it called Planetbase, and in this I've only set up 3 commands. And these are for the most commonly used functions. This is a game where you need to hit cancel to get out of screens a lot, and you need to be able to speed up and slow down the game a lot, quite often as well. I'm just going to hide the profile list, and let's take a look at the 3DXware. These are the inputs from your 3D connection controller. Now I'm using a Space Mouse Pro. Okay. So normally, you know, I'm able to move around in the game using the keyboard, and this is how I played most of the games in the past, but I'm going to use ControlMyJoystick to set up the controller to move us around. Instead, it's just a little bit more comfortable. So now I've enabled the controller here under 3DXware. I've got it enabled, and I also have smoothing on to reduce the amount of jittering of the hands, you know, the shakiness. And now if I look over here, I could see the indicators for each axis. I have translational axis X, Y, and Z, which is like movement along the axis, and then rotational, which is rotation around the axis. So we have 6 different axes. I'm on the default curve group here, and in this curve group I have 6 axes. And I'm going to configure ControlMyJoystick to send key presses anytime there's any rotation around the X, Y, or Z axis. So I'm just going to resize that so I can see it all. And what I want to do is, for example, anytime I scroll, anytime I do rotation around the Y axis, which is this axis going this way, like this to the right or this to the left, you can see the indicator here in negative territory. Now I'm in positive territory. And whenever it goes negative, I want the digital joystick function to send an A to the game. And whenever it's positive, I want to send a D to the game. The x-axis goes this way, kind of from side to side, And when it goes into negative territory, I want to send a, let's see, where is it? Rotate X right there. When it's negative, I want to send a W. When it's positive, I want to send an S. And I'm also going to allow rotation around the Z-axis, which is an axis that goes vertical in the controller puck. And whenever I have a positive value, I'll send a Q. And a negative value, I'll send an E. Okay. So now let's take a look at how this turns out. So now notice when I'm moving this around, it's not scrolling around in the game, and that's because the focus or the active application on the operating system right now is ControlMyJoystick. And so the game is not receiving these inputs. But if I click on the game, let's kind of click anywhere in the game, now it'll receive the inputs because it is now the active or focused application. Almost run into a spaceship there. Okay. So now let's take a look at how we can configure this and look at the rotation around the x-axis, which is the one that allows us to go forwards and backwards. So I'll double click on the axis and you can see there is a curve, but you really don't need a curve to use the digital joystick function. That's more of an analog thing, but most of the time I'm gaming, I'll just put it to a soft curve like this because what I want is the dead zone. And you can manually enter a dead zone here, but a dead zone of 50 is good. That means that you won't get any movement from your controller until you've moved it a little ways. Otherwise, if there's no dead zone or the dead zone is 0, it's as soon as you make any touching of the controller at all, it's going to move, and that's usually just too sensitive. So I use 50, and let's see, I'll click on digital, and you can see how I have it enabled. It's a kind of a check mark here. This theme makes it a little tough to see that. And negative value W, S, 20, and 0. Now, this down delay is, we're going to send a stream. Let's say you put the rotation around the x-axis negative. So it's going to send a stream of W's to your game. And it's going to go W key down, pause for 20 milliseconds or 21 thousandths of a second, and then it's going to release it. And then it's going to wait 0 milliseconds and then do it all again. Okay, so click on OK and click on close. Now check out rotation around Y. This is from side to side. Looks good. And we're going to look at rotation around Z. The only thing different around this one, I found that I needed a higher dead zone just to make it a bit more comfortable or more controllable. So it's the same idea though. You can just experiment with whatever dead zone works out for you. I'll click on close. Okay, so just to review this, I'm going to just move this out of the way. Click on the game, and I'm going to use the controller now to move around. Now you can also combine this, so if you move up and to the right, kind of diagonally with the controller, it'll move you diagonal. And if I rotate the controller to the left, around the rotational Z-axis, it rotates to the left and to the right. Okay, so you're able to just sit here, and use it as a little joystick, and you notice you don't have to move it around very much. Now, Planetbase is a tricky game to configure in a sense that you have to leave the game to be able to do your key mappings. So you have to go up here, you press escape, you exit the game, do your key mappings, and then you have to load it up again and come back into it. That's a pain. So what I recommend is set them, up in the game, the keys that you want, so you can use it from your keyboard. Then bring open a notepad like this, and click on notepad, and then move the controller, and you can see the keys that are being sent to notepad. And if these look okay, well then it should work in the game. So, and they do. Now some other things we have set in the game are some buttons on the controller. For example, we have a button here set to button number 1, which is cancel. So if you're in a dialogue or a screen, you hit that and it takes you out of it. So let's just try that. Bring up a button or a screen of some kind, say like this one. Statistics screen. I think that is normally use the escape key to get out. Okay. But no, you don't want to take your hand necessarily off the controller and back to the keyboard. So if you press the 1 button here, which I've mapped it to, it does the same thing. Okay, so let's see how we would actually map that. I have a couple more here. One to go game faster and game slower. And slower is this button here, and faster is here. So if I was to press slower, it's already as slow as it goes. And then faster, faster. And so on this particular game, if you can cancel and access those two speed functions, you're pretty well set. You don't normally have to do anything else with the keyboard. Okay, so I have this one which is game speed slower, and it's set to be escape in where you configure your key bindings in game. So let's just try recreating this one and see what we need to do. So I'm going to hit delete, and I'm going to create a new macro. Okay, cancel. And anytime I see this key combo here, that could be one or more keys from the controller. Let's say it's the 1 button. I'll hit OK, and there's 2 places to see which buttons you have pressed on the controller. If I suppress a button, you see it's right here, and it's here on this dialog. So keep it pressed down, hit OK, and now you have a trigger. So anytime this button is pressed, it's going to run this macro and any script commands that are in the macro. So I'll add a keyboard text, and I want escape. So you find escape and hit double click on it. Hit OK. And that's it. Okay, so now all you have to do is you go, say, in-game. Bring in a dialogue, maybe like this. Press the button, and it closes it. So that's basically it. That's how you set up ControlMyJoystick for Planetbase. And it's real handy. I find it a little bit easier to use than navigating with the keyboard. All right, have fun.